Hello, beautiful YouTube. Hello, beautiful YouTube. It is Emily. I hope you're having a wondrous moment, morning, evening, wherever you find yourself on this earth. You are probably feeling a bit disturbed about everything we are learning about the Yeats poo slingers. That's what I think I'll call them for the sake of the tight algorithm. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say hello to all the new subscribers. There were quite a few from the last video, and thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing in this community and this larger groupthink that, of course, is always occurring. Okay, so also thank you to all the longtime watchers. I always appreciate you and appreciate your likes and comments and shares, because the way that the algorithm works today for people engaging in free speech is just, so nice. Okay, so I think that the sun is about to break through the very gloomy day today that it has been here in Utah. Lots of rain, but hopefully we have some pink roses to give us that life and remind us that our hearts are really what can get us through this incredible time that we're living through. Okay, so the things we are seeing in the poo slingers files are as old as power structures of toxic patriarchy are on our planet. Okay, there's nothing new happening, even though it may be disturbing to read about, say, beef jerky and pizza and grape soda and everything going on at the labs and all of it. The disturbing nature of what the larger humanity is able to understand about what the poo slingers at the top do is just as old as power is, when we're thinking about what and who and how those at the top of our structures do and operate. And yes, there are other, we could call them rabbit holes, darker rabbit holes we could traverse. My idea for this whole video is actually to not do any of that, but to empower us as sovereign beings who are centered within our hearts and able to hold power and not do it toxically. So there is this famous artist, Jenny Holzer, and the first time I saw this piece of art, I was at my dear friend, I haven't talked to Kellyanne in a long time, not because of a falling out, just, regular life happens. But Kellyanne, I was actually a good night at Kellyanne's house where she brought out all of these incredible inflammatory essays by the great artist Jenny Holzer that had been purchased for her by her boss, mostly because he secretly loved and had a crush on her. But this is fine art, the price of these things, and all of a sudden I'm just drinking tea with my friends James and Andrew and Kelly, and suddenly there's this great art in front of me and all of these very real, authentic fine art pieces. Anyways, one inflammatory essay, and I love this one. It's on a bright red thing, and it says, "The abuse of power comes as no surprise." And that is because it is very difficult to, be conscious, heart-centered, embodied, awake, when you have power. And a lot of power is real power versus fake pseudo matrix power. These two things are so deeply different. And we don't have the understanding that we used to have back in the days of antiquity, or even further back, where we understood the human being as so much more than just a body. And we understood the auric field, and we understood the quality of the dimensionality of our existence as not just humans, but as human beings situated within the cosmos. and as human beings, as a part and one with our divine source creator, our God source. And nowadays, we just don't have that. We do not have that frame of reference. And many of us here on this channel actually do. So I'm not necessarily talking about us, but I'm talking about the larger, wider collective that is having now access to this information about what goes on for the poo slingers. And so I think that this story will help, okay? Now, this is a book about William Butler Yeats, and, well, I guess I should say the beginning of the book is about William Butler Yeats and his relationship with the infamous Aleister Crowley. And the reason this is important is because a lot of what we're seeing happening in the poo slingers realm is this really dark patriarchal magic where men who do not have access to the holy womb for themselves have to try to gain and get access to power through the abuse of women that do have that access and power in their actual lived body here on earth. Okay, now this might sound like, heretical wisdom. And if it does, I'd like to remind you that the word heretic comes from the Greek herkitos and originally meant the one who is able to choose. Okay, and as we talked about last time, and actually I did a community post like a few days ago with these beautiful slides by a woman, and I'm forgetting her handle. I follow her on Instagram. I think it's something Sherry. Je t'aime Sherry. I love you. Yes, I love you. That just reminded me of my matcha tea. Anyways, okay. All right. Women used to be those, and still are those, who have connection to the spiritual plane of life in a way that is quite different than an embodied male. Okay? Now, because women are able to have this holy womb chakra, and if anyone is interested in the teachings of the holy womb chakra, I would refer you to Saint Sri Kalishwar, because he was given these very ancient palm leaf manuscripts, and it is because of his own ethical integrity, one of the clearest sources of understanding Divine Mother and women. And even though Sri Kalishwar is absolutely 100% of a Hindu faith, absolutely 100% understands that God, source, creator of all life, is not like saying like, oh, apples or oranges or pomegranates or strawberries or cucumbers or pears. I only want oranges to exist. No, I only want cucumbers to exist. No, it's like we like all of them, okay? All of them offer something that's beautiful. And I personally, from God Source Creator's viewpoint, agree with Sri Kalishwar that Yeshua and his soul mission with Mother Mary, and even beloved Mary, Miriam Magdalita, if you look at the Aramaic, the Marys, which was not necessarily like the name Mary, but more of a title of a priestess, of somebody who had initiated themselves into what is real lived power, okay? Creative, fecund, fertile, abundant, rich, brimming, overflowing power that doesn't need to do anything to any other being to get power, to harvest and siphon and try to get energy from certain beings, because anything that has true power has real direct access, real power access to that which is the source, which is unlimited. Like, infinite supply. The source of life is the source. It is the creator. It doesn't need to do these, what we're seeing, evil demonic acts to try to get power, to be powerful in a toxic patriarchal way, because I'm a poo slinger. No, just like actually the reverence of the human beings that grow life and birth life and nurture life and raise life, and the understanding, the proper spiritual understanding of women is a lot more powerful than what we're seeing. And why we're even seeing it is because it's absolutely 100% not working anymore and crumbling before our very eyes. And it is because we have fully entered the Aquarian age. And in the age of Aquarius, Aquarius is so humanitarian based, okay? So innovative and future forward thinking for what is really freedom, and not toxic freedom, not Luciferian American freedom where like, freedom, but yet we're going to disrespect everything that is sacred and holy about life itself here on earth and humans. No, like real true freedom. Freedom that is reverent to what is holy and respectful. Okay, so how did we get in this mess? Well, this will share a little bit of how it happened. Okay, where should I begin? Well, maybe here. Okay. It would obviously be false to say that all poets are occultists, but the fact remains that the world's best poets have been versed in the occult arts. These poets have fulfilled the ancient role of the shaman or medicine woman, who was at once a poet, a magician, a lawmaker, and a theologian. Francis Yeats, William Butler Yeats, has shown that Spenser, Shakespeare, and Milton, and of course Blake, although I'm adding that there, consciously developed an occult substrata to their work. To these names, one may add the even more obvious examples of Dante or Blake. Okay, I was a bit ahead of. And Yeats. Of all these poets, were working with moral and theological themes in their poetries through strong natural imagery, which of course is also charged with the supernatural. Okay, so this helps us understand why William Butler Yeats and Aleister Crowley have karma with each other, okay? Because karma just keeps on slapping you in the ass until you take care of it. Okay, here we go. The Golden Dawn was one of the more radical of the organizations, for despite its Rosicrucian origins, okay, Rosicrucian, you might know about that. It is very much a Christian undertoned secret society. Rosicrucian origins, it was the spiritual heir of Freemasonry, which borrowed its emphasis on ritual magic and initiations. Okay, what we're seeing is that these people, the poo slingers, are doing ritual magic. Yeats was an important leader of the organization from the very inception. The Golden Dawn was an outgrowth of a study group called the Hermetic Society, which Yeats was also a member. When the founder of the Hermetic Society died in 1888, two more of its prominent members, Wynne Westcott and MacGregor Mathers, founded the Golden Dawn. Okay, this is not so important, but I think it will help us understand. As the more confident and creative of the two, Mathers composed all of the society's original rituals. Unfortunately, within a short time, he had assumed a dictatorial preeminence within the organization. Because abuse of power comes as no surprise. There were plenty of grumblings, but for the time, Mathers kept a lid on the situation. However, when he moved to Paris and started promoting Egyptian rites in a public theater, no less, revolt broke out in earnest. There were several reasons for the London Lodge's break with Mather's, but a major factor was its refusal to recognize Mather's recent initiation of the infamous Aleister Crowley. On this score, Yeats was adamant, declaring that the Golden Dawn was not a reformatory, and speaking of Crowley as a person of unspeakable life. Crowley richly deserved this epithet. Already well on his way to becoming the world's most notorious black magician, he would later call himself the Beast and file his teeth into points. And while his amusing theatrics have often thrown people off the scent, Crowley was a truly evil man. A man of great natural power who had a disastrous effect on the lives of those who surrounded him. It was inevitable that Yeats and Crowley would clash, the white magician and the black, a usual rival. In April of 1900, Mathers sent Aleister Crowley to take over the London Lodge and expel half the membership for insubordination. Breaking into the lodge's meeting rooms, Aleister Crowley seized property on behalf of Mathers, but was quickly expelled when an irate member called Yeats. When Yeats found out what was going on, he changed the locks and took up residence in the rooms, hoping to confront Crowley on his return. He was not disappointed. Crowley showed up 2 nights later wearing a Highland kilt, a black mask with a dagger, and a huge crucifix. It seems that Crowley's latest kick was dressing up in costumes and taking on assumed identities. Yeats blocked Crowley at the door, and Crowley retreated to get a constable. Not surprisingly, the police sided with Yeats because who would trust a masked man in a kilt in London? This incident was the last straw, and Mathers and Crowley were fully expelled from the Golden Dawn, and Yeats emerged by default as the new spiritual leader. But more trouble would be ahead. Yeats and the lodge's secretary were soon isolated as the society's new authoritarians. Yeats, it seems, wanted to maintain the organization's hierarchical structure with grades and examinations, while most of the other members wanted something more informal. Many of them were already involved in a titillating seance. I can never say that word, seance. You know what I'm saying. Scene, and were taking their guidance from an Egyptian spirit residing in a statue inside the British Museum. Yeats felt that this was just mere dabbling. As one of the most religious members of the group, he was always mindful the society's real goal was mystical union with God. He also had been founded as a He also wanted to maintain the Christian identity of the group, which had been founded as a Rosicrucian society originally and was therefore deeply involved in the symbolic and mystical aspects of Christianity. This new conflict between Christian mysticism and Egyptian magic would never be fully resolved. Okay. Let us skip ahead until the night of the stair tumble. So Yeats ends up, Aleister Crowley comes back to try to steal papers, and Yeats kicks him down a flight of stairs and hurts him. And they spend the rest of their life doing a duel, a magical duel. And we might ask ourselves, well, what's really going on here? But what we would understand is that no women were allowed to be in these organizations, as they would have been actually revered and honored and cared for and understood as the spiritual beings that they are, and their unique ability to be really quite good at mystical union with the divine source of all of life. So as time goes on, things just get further and further and further away and distorted from the truth of what is actually whole and well-being. And so what does this mean for us today? The sun is out. It means that, yes, if we want to become spiritually sovereign beings, we do need to remember that we are spiritual beings, and we do need to remember that there are spiritual orders that align themselves with universal law and the harmonious principle of do no harm. And they understand the sacred nature of the human being on earth, as well as the divine source and everything that exists in between. And part of this understanding is, yes, initiation. And as my post that I posted a few days ago suggests, that in the times, pre-antiquitous times, it was known that men received spiritual initiation through women. And therefore, we wouldn't see the Slingers doing all this thing, because that would never happen in a society where matriarchal groups of women would decide and be able to know if things were going against universal law, if people were acting in vile, unholy ways that are, going against an animal body, a child's body, or a woman's body. And immediately, because power comes through the initiation with the high priestess, it would be revoked. Access would be taken away, and any kind of energetic power that is coming through there would be gone. And so there would be no toxic patriarchy if women were allowed to be really what and why and who women are when they are being their divine, spiritually sovereign selves, that they definitely, every single woman has the ability to initiate and reclaim for oneself. Now, when you're doing this, there's going to be all types of people who have no ability or even context to understand you. And it's not their fault. It's actually just a function and feature of society, and the dullness, the dumbed downness, the ignorance, okay? Most people are spiritually ignorant in today's time, and it's not even their fault, okay? It's just, and the big pharma and the big ag and the big tech and the Hollywood sickness and the distract, and everything wants to keep people from actually becoming conscious. Because if more and more humans become conscious and more humans enter sacred union and find divine union, and more divine power gets brought, and these gifts that emerge through divine power, like oracleism, okay, this changes everything, because then these Slingers at the top, who are doing all of this occult black magic, now they have to contend with people who are doing real magia, that have real instruments that are attuned to the love of God, Source Creator, that are properly initiated to the true power that is, infinite supply. It doesn't need to kill an animal, doesn't need to kill a being to get power, to siphon power, to give energy to some demonic force. No, just has access to it. And so the way that we can heal both this nation, America, and make it so that it's not in the claw and the grasp of sick, perverted poo slingers, but actually in the power of the sovereign people that have done the work of the Constitution of the United States of America says that it is God's source creator that protects our birthright freedoms. So you can take that seriously or not. I myself take it very seriously because I actually was given an experience. Shall I share this? I was given the experience of the energy that was in the hand that signed the Declaration of Independence. Okay? Now, of course, I'm just sharing you something that I've had as a mystical experience, so take it or leave it for what it is. But I truly understand that that declaration, that Constitution, it is signed with a power that is like with the power of God Source Almighty. Okay, that's not an ordinary power that signed that document. So that is not an ordinary document. That is like a fixed, really something that can save this earth. It is a miracle. It is a miracle for humans and humanity that that document was signed. And so even if, you know, people get corrupt and start doing unconstitutional things and no, the hand of the Almighty One will always live within the sovereign, spiritually sovereign American people that will always be the true leaders of the country. But more people need to understand the mystical nature of our nation, the people who founded it, the things that were within them, and understand that there is something we can absolutely do about it. And we when we come into alignment with universal law, the law of one, do no harm, and not just in thought, not just in, you know, daydream, like delusion, disassociation of like, oh yeah, I'm a good human. But like, no, actually in our action, our moral virtue, the way that we treat others, the way that we use our word with integrity and honesty, our ability to apologize for our mistakes, to, you know, repentance and apology is a very similar frequency, but to take accountability where we need to see our own shadow in the light of the collective shadow, and to, you know, this is what waking up is. And that is why people say that waking up is painful and it involves the dark night of the soul, because it does. It does involve coming, you know, sometimes you need a mirror in the darkness. Sometimes you need a mirror in the darkness. Sometimes you need to see the depths of your own, all the isms, your own sexism, your own racism, your own every way that you might think that you are supreme. Okay, the greedism, I don't know what we call that one. Etc., etc. And be brought into the realization of how fun it should be fun, or it should be, we should all be having so much fun together. We should all be doing life-changing things together that really create systemic change and make a positive, benevolent legacy and difference in this world. We should all be, you know, holding each other accountable for where morality is at an all-time low on our planet, and how that needs to be, you know, rectified, repented for, and made pure and beautiful, so that we can all be pure instruments, so that we can have the union of masculine and feminine energies and no longer be living in a masculine dominated society where only if you have a penis can you come to my religion and I will have holy abilities over you. It's like, no, we're not doing that anymore, because that is absurd, and we have pedophiles on our planet because of that. Because if women were allowed to be empowered, there would not be that. And the reason that they had to destroy the sanctity of female, like even yoga was, yogis were originally women, okay? The male yogis took the female yoga from the women. But see what that creates? Look around the world. Do you see where we live? This is what it creates when men think that they are superior and that the God force is masculine. When really, if you look at nature, I don't know, if I look at nature, I mostly see, unless seahorses, okay, but not a seahorse, okay? I see all mammals, even whales and women. I see the women doing the job of birthing life. And women are not as incentivized to harm life or hurt life or do anything that is negative to life. Now, women disconnected from their hearts and women who have distorted their heart chakra through different various ways that the heart chakra gets distorted on our planet, that is obsessed with things that are in many ways demented and inhumane if you actually think of it from a spiritual perspective. But like, yes, okay, there are many women who have lost touch with the spiritual essence of their heart and their ability to do good and actually have moral, virtuous action. But there are also many men and many women who are rising in that initiation into what is actually pure and holy, and having reverence and sanctity for the place that life grows, where humans come from, because right now more than ever we need to value what is human. Okay, there is a poo-slinging transhumanist agenda trying to take away the God-given rights of humans if humans just get distracted and just pound the Big Macs and flip on the Netflix and let it happen. But you don't have to let it happen. But yeah, it makes you have to be a little bit weird in today's society, and people will just be like, like thinking you've lost your mind. Maybe. But more and more, maybe people will realize that, oh shit, actually, I'm insane. I'm insane when I go to my porn channel and watch my porn. And if you watch pornography, you can leave my channel. I just leave. If you watch pornography, leave. And I mean that. I don't stand for it. Yeah. The disturbance that it's creating in the male psyche at a spiritual level, and the underbelly of that industry and what's actually going on, if you're engaging in that in any way, I ask you to leave, and you can come back when you stop engaging in it. Okay. Okay. Woo. Okay. So get the Kali energy, the rage, the sacred rage. Do you know that if you're a woman, your rage is actually sacred? Like that hard boundary that comes up, that comes from your heart. Okay, that's like, no fucking way. You're not going to harm another child, etc. That is a very holy thing. It's called Icha Shakti, okay, power Shakti. And that might be the one thing that will allow that song by Tracy Chapman. Finally, the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. That was off key, but yeah, talking about a revolution. Okay, welcome to the Aquarian age. We have the big eclipse on a very special day to me personally. Yeah, so much love. If anyone stayed to the end, thank you for being here, listening to this. You can give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, send it to a friend, share. All of these things are so helpful. And I am going to be traveling for a few weeks. I'm actually going to be leaving the country here, so I probably won't be on here for a bit, but I will see you on the other side of that eclipse portal. Much love.